everyone, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Circles of Trust podcast. I am Uriel5150, also known as Connor, and
I'm DV.
And we're going to start off this week with just a really heartfelt message. I usually don't care about spoilers in my own personal life. If there's something that I want to catch up on, I'll watch an abridged version or an ending explained or whatever. Today we're going to be talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you have any interest in seeing this movie, turn this video off, go watch it, come back. Do not spoil it for yourself. Don't watch trailers, don't watch a synopsis, don't get into it, just go watch the movie. And I'm telling you, without going into spoilers, this is before the spoilers, this is the best movie I've ever seen. And I don't like movies, typically.
He does not.
I don't go see movies.
He does not.
I don't rewatch movies. I don't like movies for the most part. It doesn't really speak to me because my attention span is bad. This is the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And I don't think another movie will top it. Ever. I don't know if it will. This movie is just on another level.
Even if they made an Elden Ring movie?
Die. Even if they made an Elden Ring movie. Oh, they made a Dark Souls 3 movie. Oh my God. In all seriousness, if you have any interest in seeing this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, please watch that before you watch this video, because there's going to be no holdbacks.
Yep.
There's not going to be any spoiler tags other than the one that's going to go in when I'm done talking for the first time. We're just going to talk about everything about the fucking movie.
Yep.
And there is no way to talk about this movie without spoiling the shit out of it.
Yes.
So
yes, I did a video on this on my channel, and it was very tough to not say everything. So I had to stop myself multiple times to not do any spoilers, because
I'm impressed you did it at all.
It's
because I can't talk about it without getting to spoilers. There's too much important in there.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
We're gonna put in a big, this is the spoilers part, right? But if you want to see it, go watch it. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to turn off the video. Okay, and if you don't, we're gonna spoil it right now. There's gonna be a big banner that comes up. It's gonna be hey, turn back, spoilers here, right? And then now you're spoiled. You've already known the ending.
Yep.
You waited too long. Now you can't see the movie anymore.
It's a wrap.
It's it. Everything, Everywhere, all at once. What a fucking title.
Yeah.
Every time I think about the word perfect, I hate the word perfect, right? Because the concept of perfection means that there is no room for improvement or growth or change. It is the best it could ever be.
Yep.
And that's boring, This is a perfect movie. And I mean that in an imperfect way.
Yeah.
Anyone can look at this and take something different away from it.
Yep.
Because it's so kaleidoscopic that any angle you look at it from, you're getting something else out.
Absolutely.
And I'm not an auteur. I'm not a film guy. I'm not a buff on the history of cinema. I like what I like for the most part. This movie fucking rocks.
It does.
Real hard.
It truly does.
I saw the trailer for this. My wife and I went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes.
No Way Home was the most recent one. Saw that right before Christmas. My wife was about to head out of the country, and she said she wanted to get the movie seen so she didn't spoil it for herself or someone spoil it for her accidentally. I said, that's cool. Went to go see it, and a trailer came up for a Michelle Yeoh movie, and I was like, I love Michelle Yeoh.
Absolutely.
Why not? And then the really brief snippets that I saw, it was multiverse, multiple different realities, and I was like, okay, so it's Michelle Yeoh and The One? Okay.
Sign me up.
I fucking love The One. I think it's a stupid fun movie. See young Jason Statham, who's still bald.
Still bald.
Always been bald. But yeah. So saw the trailer for it, and by the time we went to go see it, it had already gone out of theaters. It did not have a super long theater stay. And then just last week, my wife was on Facebook and a little ad popped up that said, now back in theaters, everything everywhere all at once, limited showings. And she set it up and we went to go see the movie. And I, again, to reiterate, to be very clear, I hate going to the movies. I have really bad anxiety about being in movie theaters. And I don't know why. It's not like I've had like an awful theater experience. Yeah. I just don't fucking like them. I don't know. But this theater did not have a lot of people in it. It was like maybe a dozen people.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone seemed really chill. Everyone was super far apart. And, you know, AMC, super comfy seats. A lot of reclining going on.
That's my third home.
Yeah. Tori said that she wanted to get the Minions snack package. And I said no. But then I got an amount of snacks that would have made more sense to get the Minion snack package anyways. And she was very mad about that because she wanted an icy. And then I proceeded to have the most transcendent cinema experience of my entire life. I wept for an hour, like an hour to the end of the movie. And then I proceeded to weep for like the next 2 hours off and on. And then I was crying the next day thinking about how good that movie was.
Well, I'm lucky that my phone is water resistant because the messages that he sent me after had tears flowing from the messages. It was crazy.
It's insane how... Just thinking about it, it's like it's powerful, and
it is.
And there's so many movies, and I like not to wax. I mean, this whole thing's gonna be, it's gonna sound pretentious no matter how I say this, but we live in an era of a lot of like falsehoods, like a lot of things that are trying to present themselves as something that they're not.
Miles
Morales, right? LGBTQIA representation, racial representation, you know, family dynamics. Like there's all these things that get represented in media that, like I was saying last week, inclusion for the sake of inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Not actually saying anything, but putting something so you can put a check mark next to your box. This movie was the anti that.
Yep.
Everything in it felt incredibly intentional and incredibly heartfelt and just honest. Everything in it. There was never a point. There were points where I was like, man, this is kind of goofy. And then it fucking whiplashed me into tears moments later. If you had told me, and I think I sent you this text message, but if you had told me 5 years ago that there would be a movie where a man fully jumps 7 feet in the air and then impales his own ass on a butt plug trophy to become better at Kung Fu, that 10 minutes after that scene, I would be fully weeping with the depth of emotion that had been presented in that same film,
man,
I would say you're fucking crazy.
Yo,
but that's what this movie is.
That's what it is, man.
It's a non-stop, and it is relentless. This movie does not give you a chance to breathe. And we were talking beforehand, the movie that I can think of most recently that tried to do that was Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, where from beginning to end, it's, we got to go here. We got to do this. Here's the MacGuffin. We got to go this, da, 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 da. And it's just move. And you never have a chance to sit there and think or digest anything that's going on. It's a mile a minute. The scenes, I felt dizzy after Rise of Skywalker. That's how fast it was going. This movie did not make me feel dizzy. It immersed me entirely. The way that it was moving felt so deliberate and so, it was fast, but like, there's a quote from The Lord of the Rings, right? Gandalf, wizard always arrives precisely when he means to. Really cheesy, but that's what this felt like. The movie was going really, really fast, but it meant to. It meant to be exactly where it was at any given point in time. The intentionality of it all, just staggering. So I've said a lot of shit about the movie without actually explaining anything about the movie. So
before we get there, I'll throw in my experience, because I saw it opening. We saw it opening. Was it opening weekend? It might have been that Wednesday after it opened. I don't think we could make it, or we had something else that came out around the same time that we had to wait and watch it, because this is in March. So we go to see, like, we saw the trailers for a long time, like, because I'm at the movies pretty much every weekend if there's something out. So we were waiting for this movie. We go to see it. We're sitting there watching it. When it starts, we're like, okay, Then it's like, okay. Then it's like, yo, like, oh, okay. By the end, like there's certain moments where we're sitting there and I can feel myself tearing up. And I like kind of glance over and I see my homeboy Wildebeest. Matter of fact, this is his shirt right here. Shout out to Wildebeest. So we sitting there and I can see his face twisting up too. Like he's trying to hold back. Like it's that emotional. When we left the theater, we couldn't even say, like, normally we stand there and we talk shit about the movie. Oh, we're like, nah, that was good, but we don't like. We were like, yo, this was great, and we just parted ways and just dipped. Like that was it.
So Tori and I got out of the theater, and I'm fully weeping, right? Like I'm just tears running down my face, and I'm like, where are my sunglasses, right? So I was convinced I had put them in her purse before the movie started, and she's like, I don't have them. Please buy my sunglasses. I don't want these fucking people to see me just like weeping nonstop. And so, like, we're doing everything, and then the usher runs out of the theater. He's like, sir, did you leave? He's like, yes, thank you. Like, take my sunglasses, like, put them on all shaky, right? And, like, I couldn't say anything about the movie until we were in the car. And then I just choked out a couple more sobs before I could even really say anything. It was insane.
We couldn't say, like, we couldn't nitpick it. We couldn't do anything. I mean, even things that we thought were a little weird, in context, they were fine.
Everything is the tagline. Nothing matters.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. Nothing mattered. But because it didn't matter, it made so much more impact.
Yes.
It's just it's so good.
It's so good.
So good. I sound like a fucking lunatic talking about this movie. If you've seen it, hopefully you get it. If you haven't seen it, turn the fucking video off. We already talked to you about this. Go watch the movie. You're still technically safe. We haven't spoiled everything yet.
And it's out on digital and it's out on Blu-ray.
Yes,
so
it is.
You should be able to watch it. I recommend you watch it any means necessary.
Yeah. Okay, for real though, now you're fucked because now we're going to talk about the movie. So get out of here. You don't want that. The original tagline for this movie, I did a lot of research today on IMDb and looking at like different interviews and stuff. The tagline for this movie before the first trailer dropped, because you can have all the information up on IMDb. The tagline was, a woman tries to do her taxes. That's it. And when you get down to it, that's
100% what the fucking movie is about.
That's the whole movie.
That's the whole movie.
That's where you start. That's where you end. That's the hero's journey. She's trying to do her taxes.
Trying to do her taxes, bro.
It's insane because that's 100% true. So I'm going to start pulling up a list here so I can get names right, because I don't want to disrespect anyone involved with this, because that's how seriously I take this movie. Like, so obviously Michelle Yeoh, she's the lead actress. This is the first time she has ever had a lead role outside of China, which is insane. She's been in movies for
so many movies
since the 80s, since the 90s.
Like she's been in for a grip. Like the very first movie that I saw her in was Super Cop back in the 90s, early 90s,
Jackie Chan.
With Jackie Chan, and I fell in love. I was like, Mom, that's my boo. And every movie she's been in that I was able to see, I have watched it and I loved it. She's great.
So this is her first time as the lead. And first of all, she fucking kills it. Like from jump, there's never a moment where I was like, oh, this is kind of insane. So Michelle Yeoh is a Chinese-American laundromat owner. She owns this laundromat with her husband, Waymond, who the actor who plays Waymond is Ke Huy Quan. And you would better know him as Short Round from the Indiana Jones movies. Temple of Doom specifically, I believe.
He was just
in Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Just in Temple of Doom.
It's been a long time since I watched an Indiana Jones movie.
I loved him.
But yeah, so he was Short Round in that. He also played character in the Goonies, and that was it. He didn't really do a lot of in front of the camera work, and he did a lot of stunt coordination. Movies like The One with Jet Li from 2001, also a movie dealing with multiverses and multiple selves. Plays her henpecked husband. In any other movie, the stereotype here would be that he's just like really sheepish and meek, and he gets walked on, and it would be played for laughs. It would just
They would crap on this dude the whole movie.
So funny that this dude gets yelled at by his wife and put down in front of other people. And instead, from the beginning, from the first time we see him, yes, he's meek. Yes, he's sheepish. but he seems just nice. It's hard to put into words.
He's super nice.
Yeah, and it's not even in things that he's saying, it's in what he's doing. He's helping to do cooking.
And he loves his wife so much. He would literally do anything that she asked him to do.
Yep.
They did have some conflicts with the taxes, but we'll get into that. Yep. But other than that, he loves her so much.
And the two of them have a lovely young daughter named Joy, played by Stephanie Su. She plays Joy, who is their lesbian daughter, which is introduced very early on. Joy's girlfriend, Becky, played by Tally Meadow. She shows up to help with the taxes. She offers to go along. Evelyn is looking at their taxes, and basically they have an appointment with the IRS to go through everything. Becky offers to come along and help translate for the IRS worker, because apparently there's a bit of a language barrier there. Evelyn's freaking out because her father, Gong Gong, is in town, played by the absolutely legendary James Wong.
Dude. I was so hyped when I saw him.
Yeah. And the thing is, I knew it was going to be him before we even.
He plays that type of person all the time.
And I believe this is just off the top of it, but I think he has more acting credits than any other person alive right now.
The dude is like 135.
He's been in everything.
He's like 135.
And he's so good. He's so good in everything. I remember watching Big Trouble in Little China. He's fucking legendary, and he plays like an old like guy in a wheelchair, like a corpse dude, and then he turns into like a magician halfway through, and it's so good.
It's so good.
So you've got the whole family. You've got the father, Evelyn, Waymond, and Joy. The father is a very traditional mainland Chinese kind of guy. They're struggling to explain the relationship between Joy and Becky. Evelyn kind of skirts around it. She doesn't say that they're a couple. Mm-hmm. She instead says that they're very good friends. Gong Gong criticizes Joy for her bad Chinese. Man. But it's important to note something that I was looking at and I didn't really realize. Evelyn speaks Cantonese to her father. Mm-hmm. She speaks Mandarin to Waymond. So that's why Gong Gong doesn't understand anything that she's saying to her husband. And then Joy on IMDb says speaks bad Chinese. It doesn't specify what kind it is, but just bad Chinese. Culturally, there's a little bit of a divide between Mandarin speakers, Cantonese speakers. There's some cultural divide there, and it gets revealed later on in the movie that Evelyn being married to Waymond was a huge disgrace.
It was a big deal.
So much so that she basically ran away from home to be with Waymond. Is it Raymond or Waymond?
It's Waymond.
It's Waymond. That's just interesting. I've never heard that said before. Yeah, so they're just trying to do their taxes. They're in this laundromat. It's chaos from jump. One of the most tense scenes I've ever seen, and it's just as simple as she's looking at her taxes. She's trying to cook breakfast. She's got customers downstairs in the laundromat. She's checking up on the machines. There's a customer that comes in asking for a tag. There's a guy that's kind of hitting on her, sort of, kind of complimenting her on her perfume because that's what his deceased wife used to wear. And then Becky and Joy. Joy's, explained to Becky what's going on, getting mad, and Evelyn overhears it, and there's just this maelstrom of chaos.
Yes, and that sets the tone for the movie. So when that section of movie was over, my boy leaned over and was like, "Yo, so I see what type of movie we're in," because it is utter chaos.
It's unsettling how much is going on, and you think about from a directorial standpoint. How many plates are spinning?
Oh my God.
There's so much going on. And then you cut to Evelyn and Joy go back upstairs to go get some stuff. And then it cuts to the security camera where Waymond freaks out and then starts doing acrobatic tumbles and jumping over machines and shit. And she comes back downstairs. He's perfectly fine. He's talking to the other gentleman there. And then they're like, okay, we got to go to the IRS. And gets into the IRS building. They're, arguing on the way into the elevator. And then Waymond has his kind of freak out moment again, puts an umbrella up in front of the security camera and tells Evelyn, hey, no time to explain. I'm from a different, time. I'm going to write some instructions. You have a choice. You have a life choice coming up. You can either go left and keep going to do your taxes, or You go right into the janitor's closet, and we choose a new path for you. And she goes, what the fuck are you talking about, husband? And then he shuts down, says, I'm not going to remember any of this. Shuts down, they go out, and she's like, she looks over the janitor's closet, she looks over the taxes, and she goes to do her taxes. The tax lady, Deirdre, played by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, my girl.
Chewing the fucking scenery.
Oh, my God. She's so good. She's so good.
She plays like apathetic, somewhat like power hungry, like a middle management desk clerk.
She's just sick of everybody's shit.
She's so sick of everybody's
She's probably been doing this shit for years and hearing people whine about this and whine about that. She's sick of everybody's shit.
And
bar none.
You know, she's looking over all these tax forms that Evelyn has brought in, and she's like, hey, these are not business expenses. And she goes, yes, it is. Like, you know, I got this karaoke machine for my business. And she goes, okay, well, looking at your history of business expenses, you're also a writer and a teacher. And she goes through like all these different all these things that Evelyn has dabbled in and just never has the time to pursue because she's got this completely full-time occupation of having a family, running the business, keeping the taxes straight. She's got so much going on. So while Deirdre is trying to explain why everything's wrong, she looks down at the notepad that Wayman gave her, and it has instructions for what she should do. So she needs to take her shoes off and put them on the wrong feet, and then imagine herself in the janitor's closet, and then what's the third step?
Shit, this was in March, bro. I don't remember every minor detail. I know everything about it, but the minor details I can't pull out. So, I've only seen it once.
Fair enough.
And in March.
I don't know what the third thing was. It's escaping. But anyways, gives her like a 3-step list. She does the 2 things, does the 3rd thing, and boom. She's sucked into the janitor's closet. And in there is alternate universe Waymond, who explains that he's from an alternate universe. There's a huge evil that's stalking the multiverse. She's in grave danger. Juju Tapaki is stalking, looking for her, and the entire multiverse is threatened, and she's the only one that can save them.
What's badass about that scene too is seeing the difference between the husband Wayman and this like
they're referred to as Alphaverse.
Yeah, it's dude, he's totally different,
separate, so
totally different.
Cannot give enough props to Lutz Kehoi Kwan. Phenomenal. He literally plays 2 entirely separate people.
So good.
At the same
time. It's so good. So good.
It blew my mind. So he's demolishing. He's explaining, giving all the backstory. And Evelyn is like, hey, I got to worry about my taxes, buddy. Good luck with that. That's not my problem.
But not only that, you can tell when the alpha was in there, Evelyn was like falling for him all over again. Like you could see her demeanor, like, oh shit, I gotta listen to this guy. Yep. You know, before she didn't listen to anything that her actual husband that she's used to, anything that he says, he gets like shooed off to the side. Like just go do something else while I take care of business.
He can't talk to her.
Nope.
She won't listen to anything he says. She just gives him commands and he does them lovingly, but you can tell that it hurts him.
Yep. So seeing her react to this one, I was like, oh man, she's falling for him already. In the janitor's closet too. Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it's being established that she's present in both places. She's in the janitor's closet in one universe, and she's in front of Deirdre's desk in a different one.
And the transition was awesome too. The blowback.
That's all in camera.
All in camera. I remember seeing that on some of the special features.
Insane. Because that shot looks so good. And they're like, yeah, we just had Michelle act like she was being dragged. Then we just like pulled the chair.
Yeah.
Like, but it looks so good.
Like in today's day and age, we're used to seeing like hella CG or you can see the green screen behind them.
But it looks so good because it's real. It's just her being pulled into a closet at super high frame rate. And that was the other thing I saw about this movie is so much of it was shot in a high frame rate.
Yep.
Specifically so they could go back and tweak things into slow motion when they felt like it, which is such a cool choice because so many of the scenes and moments are just uplifted so much by being in slow motion.
And some of the impact Well, you can tell, like, typically Michelle Yeoh movies, when they have martial arts scenes in it, she's good at it. So she can make impact and not, like, take your head off.
Correct.
And then when they play it back, they can show the skin ripple and everything from her kicking the shit out of somebody.
And it doesn't need to be all dressed up and
doesn't
CG.
need to be.
Yeah,
it's very few people in the martial arts realm that can do things like that in movies. Tony Jaa is really good at it. Jackie Chan, of course, is good at it. Yep. Michelle Yeoh is excellent at it. It's very rare, but there are a few. But that's what makes this movie so special, because it takes things from other, like, every actor and actress in this movie added their piece of personality.
Yes.
And where they came from in other films and things, added pieces to this movie to make it that much better.
It feels like this whole thing, every person was a puzzle piece.
Yep.
And it all fit together perfectly. Every person is uplifting every other person to heights never before dreamed of. And nothing made that more apparent than watching the South by Southwest premiere. They spent 15 minutes up on stage telling every crew member, all the people that are normally invisible in a production, they're like, stand up, get your applause. Like, you guys fucking killed it. Because the costume design, the lighting, post-production, editing, cinematography, everything was just perfect. But
everything was great.
Phenomenal. Yeah, not to go beat by beat by beat, but basically, they're establishing that Evelyn can jump through the multiverse. And in another universe, she was the one who basically invented multiverse jumping. Yep. So something goes wrong, and alternate universe Deirdre breaks in, snaps.
Oh my God.
Snaps Wayman's neck, and then beats Michelle Yeoh to death with a pipe.
Oh my God.
And Jamie Lee Curtis,
so good.
Again, every actor is having to play multiple versions of themselves. Jamie Lee Curtis, you sometimes forget how good of an actress she really is. And then her facial expression when she busts into that closet, I was like, I'm fucking scared. Like, she just looks like she wants to kill you. Yeah. So then, she gets snapped out of that multiverse moment, and normal Waymond is there, and, Waymond bought her, I think, a day.
Yep.
And she, the whole time while she's off in La La Land, Waymond is there talking to Deirdre, trying to explain, like, what's going on. And Deirdre, at the end of it, is like, hey, like, I'll give you until tonight. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. I'll give you until tonight to resubmit all these forms. We can do it properly. And Evelyn is like, oh, there's my husband screwing everything up again.
Yep.
Like, he can't get anything right. So doesn't acknowledge what he's done at all. Collects the family, goes to go to the elevator. And Deirdre comes up, and she's pulling a bunch of luggage, and she's, like, stalking up to Evelyn, like, really fast. And Alphaverse Waymond told her, be careful, they know you're here. Yep. You have to be on your guard. So when Deirdre comes up, Evelyn punches her in the face, like, breaks her nose. And she has the reaction that any normal person would have, which is, ow, my hand, I punched someone, because punching hurts. And Deirdre's like, you fucking maniac. Like, you have no idea what you just did. Like, and call 911, get the police in here immediately. The reason that moment stuck out to me so much, because it's real early on. It's like first 15-ish minutes. Everyone has something they can take away from in this movie. But growing up, I was always told that my way of solving any problem that I had was by punching it in the nose. It was a very common phrase that I heard from people, is like, you always deal with your problems by punching it in the nose. Like, it's always the, like, most direct, least thoughtful way to deal with your problem. And then I saw Evelyn doing that, and I cringed. I was like, fuck, like, this is not how this should go. Yeah. And there's consequences for those actions. The security guards come up, they go to arrest her and her family, and Alphaverse Waymond comes in.
Woo, boy.
And takes turns, like, hey, I'll get you out of this. And he proceeds to chew an entire stick of chapstick.
Yeah.
Like it's chewing gum. And then takes his fanny pack off and beats the dog shit out of these security guards.
And it looked beautiful.
Because Ke Kwan
can whoop ass.
He does a lot of his own stunts. There were a couple of stunts that another one of the stunt coordinators stepped in for. I don't know if it was these or if it was more for the tumbling. I would assume it was more for the tumbling.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the tumbling. Because the fights he could do.
The fights looked real clean. like, because there wasn't a lot of like face shifting or anything. You can usually tell when there's like a face swap kind of thing going on, but there was slow-mo, there's really good close-ups. Like, he just destroyed. And he had, reminds me of I mean, I know it's a traditional Chinese style, but Shanghai Noon with Jackie Chan with the horseshoe.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of the whole time, and it felt like it was kind of an homage to like that style.
Damn fanny pack,
so
man.
good. And then so there's a brief lull in the fight, and then he reaches behind him and grabs a handful of pebbles out of an aquarium, and dumps them all in his fanny pack for like extra weight. So good. Like such a creative and like just fun fight scene, and it looks good.
It looks great.
It didn't feel like out of place or like, man, like we need to bring up the pace. Like, it made sense where it was in the story. It looked fucking good, and it told a story through the fight, which is what a fight should do.
Yes.
So beat up the security guards, and Evelyn and Waymond run off and hide while the building is being swept by security, and leaves her fucking father there just in a wheelchair. And Alpha vs. Waymond says, no, he's fine, he'll be okay. And it cuts to him like eating pudding in the fucking break room. Just a quick gag, but it's so fun. And yeah, this whole thing is just him giving her more exposition. Like, we're in this world where, you know, Juju Tobaki has ruined everything, and like she's going through the multiverse and killing everyone. And then you get the reveal that Juju Tobaki is actually Joy. And it's not long for the reveal. They start talking about Juju Tobaki, and they do like a brief like silhouette kind of thing, but you can hear the voice and it's kind of obvious. And like maybe 3 to 4 minutes after that, it's like, okay, it's Joy. So
she killed that shit too.
She's Stephanie Sue.
She killed that shit.
So good.
She killed it.
And the thing is, it was supposed to be, originally it was cast as Awkwafina.
Yes.
I'm so glad that it was not Awkwafina.
Yeah, I don't think Awkwafina, and look, don't get me wrong, Awkwafina cracks me up in a lot of movies.
Is very funny, but
I don't think she could have pulled the range that was required for that role.
It's not shit on Awkwafina, because that's obviously not what I'm trying to do, but this is a really complicated, like once in a lifetime kind of role to pull off, where she's having to switch between like diabolical sociopath and really vulnerable teenager, like boom, boom, boom. And Stephanie Sue pulled it off flawlessly.
Like, so good. So many scenes that she was in.
She stole them.
She stole them.
In a movie where everyone is stealing every scene.
she stole
it on top of their stealing.
Oh yeah. It was, she did a great job. And I can't see Awkwafina doing that now.
Yeah, I couldn't see her in that.
Like, I see her in Shang-Chi, and like just the character that she played in that, I don't see that particular person switching. And she barely did any acting in Shang-Chi. That was pretty much her.
Right. I was gonna say, like,
ad-libbing shit and doing whatever she wanted to do.
That's kind of the same performance we've seen from her before. I can't recall having seen Stephanie Sue in anything, but I want to see her in fucking everything now.
I think it's another movie that I have seen her in recently, and I can't.
She's worked with the Daniels before on something. I don't remember what the project was.
It's something. I'll think of it. But anyway,
one of the funniest things. So again, I was watching all these interviews, and she was talking about doing the audition for the Daniels, and they were like, she was so good that we rewrote the script for her ad libs,
bro,
because of how good she was. And they were like, one of the lines she ad libs was, "Wouldn't it be funny if I didn't get the part?" And Jamie Lee Curtis is like, "You said that in an audition?" And she was like, "I thought it would be kind of funny if I didn't." And it's like, in the professional acting world, that's unfucking heard of. Like, you never like acknowledge.
Yeah.
But she like broke the fourth wall, and it was a good joke. Apparently, the Daniels loved it. So she's fantastic. She
killed it.
Represents herself so well in every scene she's in, because she's being tasked to be a omniscient, multidimensional serial killer, basically, but also an LGBT Chinese American immigrant who's struggling with like traditional Chinese family values. So she's
Pennywise.
Yes.
She's Pennywise and then a regular person.
Yes, and she's having to swap back and forth.
So great.
And again, she pulls it off magnificently.
She does.
The actual storyline, like the thing that you're supposed to like care about, is that Evelyn created time travel, and then Juju Tobaki was her best disciple, and then she pushed her too far and her mind broke, and like now she can be everywhere all the time, and that's why she's crazy and evil.
Yep.
nobody really, that's not really the most important part of the movie. Like,
No.
they give you that through line, but like you can discard that almost entirely and just be like, this is a story about family.
Yep.
Which hilariously is also what Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, I remember in the junket, they were like, it's a movie about family, and I think that's why it's so important. No, fuck, it wasn't.
Fast and Furious is
Fast and
about
Furious
family.
is about family. That's true.
It's about family.
I would buy that for Fast and Furious. But this movie is genuinely a story about a family trying to make sense of an incomprehensible world.
Woman goes to pay her taxes.
Woman goes to pay her taxes. That shit goes bad.
That shit is great.
So Evelyn and Waymond are hiding. They get some more exposition. Oh, they're starting to get chased by Deirdre again.
Yep.
So Waymond starts to use his multiverse jumping thing, which in order to jump in the multiverse, the way they explain it is you have to do something
crazy,
insane.
You gotta do something crazy.
And it's usually something like very specific to whatever the thing you're trying to do is. So like you're trying to replicate a circumstance that occurred to your other self in that other multiverse.
Yes.
For this one, he has to give himself paper cuts.
Oh, he takes it. And he just runs them shits through his fingers.
So he has to give himself 4 paper cuts, one between each finger, and he's just fucking and like just hearing about it. But he does it, and then he proceeds to fight Deirdre, who is like channeling a pro wrestler at this point. And so bad. She's like throwing people around and like tossing chairs. And she beats the shit out of Waymond and separates him from Evelyn. And he passes the headset to Evelyn and he goes, hey, you gotta figure this shit out now if you want to survive. So she gets her sequence and she has to tell Deirdre that she loves her and mean it. And she's like, I can't do that.
This bitch is trying to kill me, dog.
And so she's being chased around the room and like punched and she's dodged. She's like, I love you, I love you, I love you. It's hilarious, but also kind of terrifying because her life is on the line. And then Alpha Waymond goes, hey, you weren't the one. You can't do this. I'm out. Good luck, dude. I gotta go find the right Evelyn. And she's like, so then she goes and meets up with her husband. You know, she's all beaten and she's gotten the shit kicked out of her at this point. They move the filing cabinets out of the way. They're escaping down the stairs. Deirdre jumps off the top of the stairs in one of the best slow motion sequences I've ever seen. So
cool.
And so she's doing like a flying knee, and Evelyn turns around and drops down to her knees, and she says, I love you. And she means it. And it's wild. Like, actors say I love you all the time. Mm-hmm. It felt real. It felt really real. And like Michelle Yeoh just being like, I love you. It was like,
you know, what I thought about in that moment when she actually said it and meant it, it's like she thought about all the times that she had to deal with Deirdre and the tax, because that's their normal tax lady.
That's their normal tax lady. So apparently that's a history there.
Yes, and I guarantee you, Deirdre has let her slide a lot, and now 100%. This is the point where she's like, "Bro, you can't slide now." But at that moment, I felt like when she dropped to her knees, it was like, you know what, like this is almost like this is probably the only friend that I really have. Like, we don't hang out or anything, but I see her every year and we talk, and she knows a lot about me. I actually really do love her. And then when she said it, it was like, oh shit.
It's so good.
So
and
good.
That's a really beautiful interpretation, because I didn't even think about it that way, but I really like that. Because I thought it was more that she was like picturing it was Waymond. I thought she was like trying to superimpose that because she closed her eyes and everything. So I thought she was imagining it was Waymond.
So I came to that when we talk about the end. I came to that conclusion after I saw the end scene with them, and I was like,
that makes sense.
Okay. So all right.
Yeah. So the knee's about to connect with her face. She says, "I love you," and then she's like, boom, snaps in a multiverse where she stayed at home in mainland China. She got mugged, and a kung fu master took her under her wing. And she became this massive movie star.
Like the Michelle Yeoh, pretty much the Michelle Yeoh that we know.
Right.
The 616 Michelle Yeoh.
And it's so cool because they use like the red carpet footage from her actual red carpets. So it feels
she looks
real.
So good too.
She looks so good.
God damn.
So the kung fu master that takes her under her wing is Li Jing. I have it in quotes as bad bitch. She is fine as hell.
She's fine, boy.
So she's the kung fu master, but I put down some of the things she's worked on. She's mainly a stunt coordinator and like fight coordinator. She's worked on Aquaman, Pacific Rim, The New Mulan, and the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. So she's got this really long career of like doing these things, and I didn't see a lot of acting credits for her. So it's really cool to put her in front of the camera because she didn't have a whole lot to do, but she killed what she did. Like she played the role of an imposing kung fu master incredibly well because she's chastising Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah,
like,
man.
No distractions. Worked really hard to get where we are.
Yeah, man.
So, you know, Michelle Yeoh gets all these memories of the Kung Fu Fighter because that's how the multiverse jumping works. And she proceeds to beat the dog shit out of Deirdre. And it beautiful, exactly like DV was saying, Michelle Yeoh is such an experienced fighter that she can sell a hit, actually hit, but it doesn't give the full impact. And there's so many little moves that, like, if you've watched Hong Kong movies for a long time, she does like the back of the hand and then spins out and does the 1-inch punch. So many cool little moves.
Yes.
And it's all in slow motion. It looks beautiful.
And when I saw her in Shang-Chi, when she was Shang-Chi's mother, her, you know, his aunt pretty much. And her movements when she was trying to teach him the master the parts so he could beat his dad. She's so good. She's so good.
So the first time I saw Michelle Yeoh was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. What year did that come out? That was pre-2000, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing.
Or no, it was after The Matrix, I think.
We saw that. One second. Continue. And
so she beats up Deirdre, knocks her out, puts her head through the wall, and then they start
2000.
So I would have been 9 years old when I went to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in the theater.
I graduated high school then, y'all.
A little bit of an age difference. It's fine. But as a 9-year-old, I was like, this woman is awesome. And like, not to be like super, I don't know, soy about it, but like there weren't a lot of like cool, like female, like leads. Like she technically wasn't the lead, but I thought she was the lead because Chow Yun-fat is like very stoic and like he doesn't have a lot of like interpersonal relation in that movie. But she's like a mentor to the younger girl and she's like a confidant to the older guy. And like, she plays everything so well. That
sword fight that they had, well, it was swords and other weapons.
Oh, the one in the dojo?
God. Oh, it's so good. Damn it. The emotion in it too. It you know, Ang Lee does great when it comes to emotion, even though he couldn't do a comic book movie with the Hulk. With Hulk. But that scene alone,
it's like, I don't know,
it's beautiful.
6-7 minutes of like just fighting, and it tells a story, man. The point of a fight is that it should tell a story. Like if you're watching a fight in a movie, it should be to portray something. And Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon elevated that to a whole new form. But anyways, coming back to Michelle Yeoh current day, she still fucking got it.
Yeah,
she has beautiful fight scenes in this movie. And just beautiful acting in general. It's not like she's a one-trick pony where it's like she's just a brute force fighter. Her emotion and her everything. So Waymond and her are running away. And then Joy ends up in the building. And she's like, oh, how did I end up in here? And that's where you get the reveal of, you already knew it was Juju Tabaki, but then Michelle or Evelyn sees her for the first time in action. She blows up a cop and turns him into confetti. And again,
one of my favorite scenes is that is one of my favorite scenes in there.
The best villain intro you could.
God damn.
Because she's terrifying.
She is, because she turns people into random shit.
It's basically like that scene in Infinity War where Thanos turns Star-Lord into bubbles.
Yep.
It's that kind of energy.
When he has the reality stone from the collector. From the
collector, yeah. That's what I thought of, but like it looked better than that, which was wild to me.
Yeah.
It like because the VFX for this movie was done by like 5 people, and none of them have professional like training. They all taught themselves by stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, and they do a lot of practical effects.
So many good.
So it's good editing and practical effects that made a lot of those scenes, like the confetti one.
The confetti it scared the shit out of me.
So good.
So the editor for this, because I was really interested, because like you look at some directors who they have like a favorite editor who like, you know, does everything for them. This guy, I didn't see him doing a lot of stuff with the Daniels, because the Daniels haven't done a lot of like feature-length movies.
Yeah.
Paul Rogers is the editor for this. He was an editor for the Eric Andre show for 10 episodes.
And that makes sense.
And that's what I was thinking.
It makes sense.
I was like, that's so perfect.
Because he does the same type of gags.
The same type of gags. And I was like, oh my God. Like,
dog.
That makes so much sense. And he does like a ton of music videos. He's made like a music video, and then like his big credit was the Eric Andre show for about 10 episodes.
Okay.
But like,
makes sense.
But like that style of like the quick cut and then like the zoom in and get the reaction, and it's like, that's perfect.
So good.
So you get Juju Tabaki coming in, and she wrecks shit, and she's horrifying, but also incredibly adorable.
Yeah.
It's
when
hard
she's
to
in the tennis outfit.
She's so cute.
It's like you can't be you don't want to be afraid,
but you are.
But at the same time, you saw the aftermath of her shit laid in the hallway.
She does the bullfight with the one guy.
Damn.
And Evelyn on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
She wakes up. She tries to do another multiverse jump. She does a fucked up jump that's incorrect, where it puts her into a multiverse where everyone's fingers are hot dogs.
Yes.
And they're like full wobbling, like hot. Like
you can buy those, by the way.
Big wobbling hot dogs. And there was like a TV special that was on in the laundromat.
Yeah.
It was like a recurring like theme. And then they go to the multiverse version, and they're like, they have these big waggling fingers, and they're like sucking each other's like hot dog fingers, and mustard and ketchup are coming in.
It's so funny.
I was like,
oh, ridiculous.
And then, you know, Evelyn is there by herself with like hot dog fingers, and Deirdre is there.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's like, oh, like, I love this movie. Like, it's just so good. Yeah. So they escape. Juju Tabaki, I guess, leaves her alone for a little bit. I forget kind of what happens there. And then they escape into the district manager's office, and they're kind of all catching up. Evelyn is explaining how the multiverse jumping works with the scope of the hit Disney movie Raccoonie.
Oh my God.
Where a raccoon sits on top of a man's head and pulls his hair, and then he cooks good food. And they're like, do you mean Ratatouille? And she goes, no, Raccoonie. And they're fucking crying laughing.
I was crying.
It's so good. And like, you're like, oh, haha, that's a funny thing. She got it wrong because she has a language barrier, da da da. We'll get back to that later.
Oh my God.
So they're in there, and then Gong Gong, the father, Evelyn's father, gets taken over by his Alphaverse version, and he's pulls a gun, and he's like, hey, you gotta kill her.
Yeah.
You know, because we know what she does. If we can kill her in this universe, that cuts off one of her angles of attack. And, you know, Evelyn, obviously, she's not going to kill her daughter. So Gong Gong turns the gun on them all. And I don't remember exactly how she does it, but Evelyn disarms him.
Yes. And I'm trying to, because
nothing's coming ahead, but she disarms him. And then she does another multiverse jump where she jumps into an alternate self who is a maid for the district manager. And you find out the district manager has a BDSM kink. And it cuts to him like getting like whipped by dominatrix in a panic room. And so then she sees where the button is. She opens up the panic room. She gets everyone inside, away from Gong Gong, who is now fully in control of himself. You've got normal Waymond, Joy, and Evelyn in there. And then this whole cadre of people that Gong Gong has summoned from the Alpha.
Oh my God.
And let me tell you, there's a jogger, there's like a security guard, there's like a SWAT guy, and then there's a guy in a trench coat with a katana and a fedora. And he's credited as Edgelord. And I think that's the fucking best. It's a joke that you get it looking at him, and then you see the credits and you're like, that's good shit.
And what's funny about that, when I saw that scene, it reminded me of old school video game beat 'em ups.
Yes.
And you have different variations of random people in the streets.
Correct.
And you just got to whoop the ass to make it to the next section. And
old side scroller beat 'em ups like the TMNT and Streets of Rage and all that.
Yep. Just like that.
A bunch of like random creative characters just show up and you got to beat the piss out of them. So they show up and they start tossing gas grenades into the vents to get them out of the safe room. And Evelyn does another multiverse jump, which is already a bad idea because she's not good at it.
Nope, not good at it at all.
She jumps into a singer who, as a child, fell and blinded herself and stayed in mainland China, never got with Waymond, but she became a professional singer, which is something they alluded to in the beginning of the movie. Yes. She had a karaoke machine, and that was one of the expenses that she had with the IRS. So it's like, this is something that she could have been good at, but never cultivated.
And all of the things that she listed are
So,
like,
correct.
Why she started them and couldn't finish, because these are just variations of her and other universes.
Correct.
So as the story went on, I noticed that, and I was like, wait a minute. So all these versions that that Jamie Lee Curtis was listing off of her tax write-offs,
those are all different
aspects
that she could have cultivated. But the thing that Alpha Wayman says is, you are living the worst version of yourself. Okay. The reason you may be our only best chance is because you're so bad at literally everything.
How shitty is that, though, for somebody to tell you, yo, you are great everywhere else, but you suck. You're the one person that sucks.
That would crush me. And what's nuts is Evelyn kind of takes that in stride, and like she's like, but that means I can do these things, just not here.
Yes, that I would be like, damn, yeah,
that's a devastating concept for like,
I'm a piece of shit.
Think about like you've been married to someone for like 30 years, and then a better, hotter version of them shows up and says, yo, you're actual trash. Every version of you is better than you. And your first thought is, so you're saying I can be better.
I can be better.
That's uplifting. That's a huge, I think that's a great message. Man. Where it's like, she's not living her best life for sure, but she can be. And that's what these multiverse jumps are doing, basically. She's channeling the best version of herself to accomplish a task.
Yes.
So when she jumps into the opera singer, she does that for the lung capacity, which is really fucking smart. So
smart.
She holds her breath through the tear gas, comes out, fights a couple of people, tears their gas masks off, and then throws them back into Joy and Wayman.
I could have stood up and cheered once we realized what the hell she was doing. We were like,
so the second she hit singer, I was like, she's gonna hold her breath. I was like, that's so good. And then it was like increased breath capacity. I was like, yes. And then she tosses the gas masks back in. It's a great scene. She fights all of them off. She gets beat up real bad. She does another multiverse jump in the middle of that, where she becomes a pizza sign twirler, uses a riot shield to beat the shit out of everyone in there.
Oh, you can see that in the trailer too. There's a trailer that has that scene, part of that scene in there.
Just a lot of really fun, well choreographed fight scenes that, again, they tell a story. They're saying like, these are things that she is capable of doing. What happens after that?
So they get out of there and they go to, no, it's not the where is it? It's not the warehouse place yet, where the steps leading to the, because they don't find the donut yet. I think that might be the next.
I think that's
where they go next.
So they go for a confrontation. They're basically just fighting their way through the trophies. That's next.
Yes, and it's in the same office building.
Yeah, and then it's like further away. So everything's taking place in this office, but she escapes from the district manager's office, and then is going through the normal offices and gets confronted by another Alphaverse fighter.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, I need like a new fighting style. And the thing comes over the comms is like, you gotta, like, I don't even know if they say it, but like he hears something and then he turns to look.
And then they show the trophy.
So there were some awards that Jamie Lee Curtis's character was like, hey, you don't get these by being like a slack off or whatever. And she's got like 3 or 4 of them on her desk. And they're very clearly butt plugs. Like they're just like butt plugs on a trophy stand. And so it gets to this Mexican standoff moment where the guy turns and he looks at the butt plug and he starts like unbuckling his pants. And Michelle Yeoh is like looking at him and is like, and yeah, so he gets his pants off and he goes and tries to jam the trophy up his ass to unlock his next multiverse jump. And the choreography is she's playing keep away with his ass.
Oh my God.
She's knocking the trophy away from his butt. But while she's distracted, a second security guard, is actually the first security guard that they fought in the beginning, jumps in out of frame. It's a censored shot, but he's got his pants off completely. And he's like holding his ass cheeks open. And he jumps like 9 feet over them in this huge slow-mo shot and lands on the butt plug thing. And shine art. And he like assumes like a fighting stance and the like trophy's like waggling out of his butt. And it's this absurdist, completely insane thing. And you're like, this is kind of icky. And then it's like, but is it?
But the fight was dope though.
But the fight's so good. Like the choreography is insane. And then while they're fighting there, the first guy shows up with an even bigger trophy shoved up.
Yes.
So the thing about those two is that they're actually 2 of the fight coordinators for the movie. They're actually the fight choreographers. Let me see if I can find them. That is Brian Lee and Andy Lee. So they're credited as trophy jumper and long trophy jumper. But yeah, they're two of the fight choreographers, and I believe it's Brian Lee was the double for Ke Huy Quan in some of his scenes.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so they just, they have this completely absurd, like, you're laughing, but like the stakes are actually really high.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to kill Joy, who is her daughter, and she clearly loves her daughter. And she beats both of them up by tearing the trophies out of their assholes. When they jump past her, she rips out the trophies. And that could have been a really gratuitous, gross shot, but everything's implied.
Yeah.
She puts her hand on the trophy, and then it cuts, and they're flying past her, and they like
everything was done pretty tastefully, even fighting with dildos.
I forgot to talk about the dildo fight. That's Juju Tabaki's
when
intro.
She's in that, when
she comes in the hallway. She has two like foot-long dildos, uses them like they're eskrima sticks, and fucking just
she was tearing everybody
and she's like drawing blood, and they're like flopping comically in slow motion, and she assumes like a fighting stance, and they're like
but
wobbling.
It still was badass
though. So badass and hysterical. So there's a lot of like perverse kind of humor there, but I think that's just the Daniels style.
It is.
That seems like what they do, and nothing wrong with it. Like Daniel, the district manager, the one that's doing the BDSM, that's Daniel, who director and writer, both of the Daniels. There's Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. They're both writers and directors for the movie. Dan Kwan does not show up in the movie, but Daniel Scheinert is the district manager. And even his like little BDSM sequence there is really tasteful. You don't like see anything weird.
Yeah,
it's just like a whipping, and he's like, hey, clean this up, and like that's it. So they have these really absurdist, like perverse concepts, but they're done, I wouldn't say like tastefully, but like respectfully. Like it doesn't like put you like you gotta watch a dildo come out of this dude's butt for 3 seconds.
Like if you watch this like with your parents, you won't feel gross and icky.
You might feel a little gross at first, but like
a butt plug, we're all gonna laugh at that. It's not, it's hilarious, especially the way they do it.
That's true.
If they, like you said, if they showed it and zoomed in on him inserting, that's fucking gross. But to leap 9 feet over people and land on it,
and then just jump cut to him like landing and like smoke coming off of his landing,
that
is good.
That is awesome.
So they have this fight scene, and then basically everyone confronts Evelyn out front.
Yes.
And Gong Gong is there. Mm-hmm. Everyone is there. And they, I think someone kills Evelyn or knocks her unconscious.
Now, so do we get to the other multiverse versions of her? Because, we got the hot dog fingers. And
I don't know if she jumps into them yet.
Because I'm trying to pull it all together.
I think that's after the fake ending.
Okay.
Because she gets
they did have a fake ending.
Yeah. So she gets knocked unconscious, and it goes to a black screen. Yep. Credits roll very briefly, and then it zooms out, and you realize it's the movie premiere that the actress Evelyn was.
Yes.
At. And it stays on her for a little bit, and she goes out to the after party.
Yes.
And she sees Waymond, who's very successy and well dressed, up at the top of the stairs.
Man,
and this is a third different Waymond that he's having to play.
Yep.
He's completely separate in demeanor and action. And she goes up and she's like flirting with him a little bit, and like there's clearly some sexual tension there. And he's like, oh, like you were great. Like, you did so good. And like, I love the movie. A little abrupt on the ending, but whatever. And then they go outside in the alleyway.
Man.
And like that scene was rough. Like this is where I started tearing up, because Evelyn goes to kiss him, because this is Evelyn. This is our universe Evelyn inhabiting multiverse Evelyn. So it feels like she's trying to act out some of the things that she wishes she could have done.
Yes. So
she goes to kiss Waymond. Waymond like stops her. He's like, hey, don't do this unless you mean it, because unless you mean it, it doesn't mean anything. And she kisses him anyways, and then breaks apart. And he's like, okay. He's like, I knew you didn't mean it. And, you might think, oh no, that's jumping ahead. They break apart. And it kind of cuts away from that, and she's like split into all these different directions because she's done too many jumps. Her brain, the metaphor they use is like her brain's like a clay pot and there's too many cracks in it. Yep. So now she's starting to leak everywhere. But it cuts back to her and she starts fighting. She starts fighting all the people that are there, and she's kicking ass. But you know, it's her against like 12 other seasoned fighters, and it breaks down to, I think she stabs Waymond with like a piece of glass, right?
Does she stab Waymond with
a piece of
glass? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She does.
She comes back up and she's been fighting, and then she stabs Waymond. Waymond's like, why? Like, and he's like, again, the emotions that he can convey are
so good.
So good. And he's just, you know, so betrayed. And we didn't even talk about the actual like subplot of the story that was going on where Waymond was filing for divorce.
Oh, yes. You were flowing so well.
I'm sorry.
Because I was going to comment on that.
I've missed some pretty crucial details. I'm trying to like get through this as quickly as possible.
Hey, don't worry about it.
Talk about like how we feel, but really important. Divorce is really frowned upon in traditional Chinese culture. And Waymond talks to someone at church who was like, you know, he and his wife loved each other, but you know, once they got a divorce, things got much better, and they like were able to talk to each other. So he serves papers to Evelyn for divorce as a last ditch effort to get her to talk to him because he cannot get her to talk.
That hit so hard. Like,
I was thinking about you when that happened.
Bro, that hit.
I was like,
so hard.
That's a rough thing to convey.
That hit so hard because all he wanted was her to love him, and
not even to talk to.
Yeah, and she was so focused on everything else around her career and all this other shit going on. She just neglected this dude,
and he felt he had no other options to get her attention other than to put something he could not ignore.
Dude,
there's a lot of tension back and forth about like, oh, you're divorcing me, and like you thought divorce is okay. So Evelyn goes into like this berserker state where she's like fucked up her realities. She runs into Raccoonie.
My man, Raccoonie.
So she had that whole made up story about like she confused Ratatouille with a raccoon, and it goes into a universe where she's a hibachi chef, and so she could use some sort of knife.
Yes.
I think better. That's what she was trying to practice. And her coworker Chad is like fucking killing it. He's like doing all these insane moves, and the manager's like, we're gonna give some of your shifts to Chad because you can't get your shit together.
You can't do it.
And so he turns to her and he winks, and there's a fucking raccoon tail hanging out from behind his hat. And I missed that on the first watch through. I rewatched it like today. I was looking at a couple different interviews and scenes. They go to, because she's bouncing between all these different multiverses. There's a very obviously a puppet raccoon. It's like so, he's pulling Chad's hair, and he's cooking, and they're singing like a Randy Newman song. Oh, like God. It sounds like You've Got a Friend in Me.
It's so good.
Fun fact: the raccoon, uncredited, is voiced by Randy fucking Newman, and the people who did the soundtrack for the movie made a Randy Newman style song and pitched it to him, and he was like, "This is pretty funny. I'll do it."
It's so
Randy
good.
Newman didn't make the fucking song. I thought Randy Newman made the song. The composers, for the thing made it. So good,
dude. I was crying, like I was laughing so hard the way the raccoon looks.
Like, oh God, I'm trying to think of like a good equivalent, but like think of like the shittiest puppet you've ever seen.
I don't know. I might be aging myself, but Garbage Pail Kids.
Yes.
Like that is a raccoon version of a Garbage Pail Kid. Like
he looks rough. And like his mouth is like it's like really badly thin. But it works for some reason.
It does.
It's so good.
It does.
So the raccoon like turns and goes, he's like, she's seen too much. Kill her. And he like starts pulling the hair, and Chad's like, please leave. Oh my God. So it's cutting around all these different things.
Jesus Christ.
And Evelyn, again, going berserk, she stabs Waymond, and Waymond's like, why? And he collapses. And she's, there ready to fight everyone off. And she's beating up all these people, and everyone's hurt, and she's hurt. And then it cuts back to movie star Evelyn and Waymond in the alleyway. And this is where I started fully weeping.
Good God, man.
And I'm going to try not to now because it's a really good concept. So Wayman says to her, basically, you think that I'm weak. You think that I am easily manipulated. You think that it's, what I do is easy and, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, but the thing is, I don't think it's weak to care about other people. And I don't think that it's weak to do right by other people. And if it means that I get hurt sometimes, that's okay, because I'm going to do what's best for the people that I care about. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what he says. Basically, like, you think that I'm weak, but really, like, this is how I fight. Like, you are a fighter. I know you are. I know you're strong. I'm strong too, but in a different way. This is how I fight.
So good, man.
And it's like, holy shit. Like, this movie was like, oh, haha, like, this dude's got a butt plug in his ass. And it's like, here's the most raw shit you've ever heard in a fucking movie in your life. And then Wayman stands, like, normal universe, Wayman stands back up and he's got a fucking, like, wound from his wife that just stabbed him. And he tells everyone, like, stop. He's like, we don't have to fight. Like, it's okay. God. It's all okay. Like, none of this is going to matter. We are gonna be okay. We just don't need to fight like this.
Yep.
And the thing that it made me think of the most, and this is both dating myself and incredibly corny. Remember the first Pokemon movie?
Mm-hmm.
Where Ash runs in front of the... get chills just thinking about it. It was that moment. It was the moment of like, oh, like, he's willing to sacrifice himself to get the point across of this is entirely unnecessary.
How old were you when that first Pokemon movie came out?
7.
I was in high school.
Maybe 8.
I was in high school. So you're not really dating yourself that much.
I cried for days. That was the most hurtful shit I
We saw that in the theater when I was in high school.
You had to have cried. You had to have.
Oh, but we were thugs, son. We were thugs. We were thugs. We couldn't cry, show emotion. You know what I'm saying? I tell you what I did though. Another Pokemon moment. It was an episode of the show when they went into the haunted house and all the ghost Pokemon were there, and Ash and Pikachu died.
Yes.
And their spirits like went up. I was like, oh. They died. They showed them die on TV.
They are fully dead.
And that's when Gengar became like my favorite Pokemon. I was like, yo, he killed Ash and Pikachu. This motherfucker is a beast.
Gengar, a real one.
Oh yeah, he's that dude. But anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, so, Wayman has this incredibly touching moment of, we don't need to fight. This isn't what you need to do. And Evelyn pushes him to the side and goes to go and fight. And she gets a couple of punches in, couple kicks in. And then Wayman like shouts at her. He's like, Evelyn, be kind, please. And I'm like, why am I crying? Like, this shouldn't be this hitting this hard. It's a movie about butt plugs and raccoons under fucking sous chef hats. Takes a moment and she turns back towards the stairs and goes to fight back up the stairs. And the thing that she says before she turns around, just fucking, gotta get under control. She turns to Wayman and she says, I'm learning to fight like you. And it was like, if you've ever been in a relationship with someone where you don't always get heard the way that you mean to, someone will listen to you, but what you're trying to say never really gets heard. Thinking about that from the perspective of a man who we've seen be downtrodden the entire movie, and then not only gets heard, but fully listened to, the exact core of what he was trying to say gets interpreted, and then she employs it exactly the way that that he intended her to.
Powerful.
Incredible. Because again, any other movie, Wayman's whole character arc would have been, he starts off as a pushover, he ends as a pushover. There'd be no
Especially
growth.
this day and age.
Dudes are usually played for comic relief.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what a stupid guy. Wayman is instead empowered as an incredibly empathetic character, and it's shown that empathy, there's nothing wrong with being empathetic. Like,
And
it's
usually
not-
that's usually the woman's role, like how they used to portray it before.
and I love that they flipped it in this.
They flipped it.
I love it because this movie passes the Bechdel test in every possible way. Like, the fact that there is men present has nothing to do with the continuation of the story and the theme. The theme is you don't have to punch all your problems in the nose.
Yep.
And so she proceeds to go up the stairs, and instead of hurting the people, she employs her skills to help them by jumping into the multiverse where they are from, or where they're like, where the thing that they need is. And so for Deirdre, it's they're in the hot dog finger world, and they had like sort of a lesbianic tryst, and Evelyn pushed her away. And in this universe, she pulls her back, and she's like, hey, like, you know, you matter, and like, I love you. And it goes back to that first thing that she said, where she's like, you know, you have to tell her you love her, and you have to mean it. And she does. And it's to her. She's like, I love you. The guy who was like, oh, that perfume that you wear reminds me of my dead wife. She like pulls like perfume like from a multiverse and sprays in his face, and it like frees him. And
good.
The district manager, you know, who's very into BDSM, she goes like into a full dominatrix mode and spanks him, and like that really and, like, and it's like, these are things that, like, what I liked about it was it's not like that she's solving like a major life problem. She's giving someone something that they need to feel better.
Yep.
And it's not like a harmful thing. It's not like she's like, hey, you're kind of depressed, here's some cocaine. Like, it's like, no, like, I'm going to find a hurt within you and attempt to heal it. And that's just, it's so good.
It's just so well done. That whole scene going up the stairs was amazing.
Again, from the moment that he started talking in the alleyway to 15 minutes after credits rolled, fully weeping. There was no cessation. Once
she started listening to Waymond and like acknowledging everything that he's been trying to tell her for years. The power behind it. And as a person who was married and had moments like this, like, yo, like, I'm not telling you this to hurt you. These are like, you don't have to go and do it this way. Every time you do it, you mess this up, or you do this, let's try it a different way. And now that I'm divorced, and now I see those same things being implemented, because we're not, now it's easy to listen to you now.
Right.
I that hit me so hard.
As someone who's in a perfectly happy relationship with their wife, that shit hit me hard.
That shit hit hard, bro.
It's hard to convey things to your partner sometimes, like, regardless of if it's your boyfriend or your girlfriend or wife or husband or ex-wife or whatever the case may be. It's hard to get across the meaning of what you're trying to say. Language is very insufficient sometimes. It's tough to be sincere with someone. So when you can convey a concept to someone and it does resonate with them, and they
so good
and they captured that feeling in a way that I did not think was possible to translate. It was, again, I hate the word perfect. It was perfect. I don't think I'll ever see anything like that again. I genuinely don't.
Especially not now with the movies that we got coming out.
Fuck no.
We're not gonna have
this. Is the last best movie. This is it. This is the one. And again, I've skipped over so many important plot points. I'm not even giving you like everything. I'm trying to give you the through line. There's a whole scene where Multiverse Evelyn goes back to her dimension, where she goes home and she buys herself time, and she goes to the Chinese New Year party.
Yep.
And she destroys her laundromat, and she freaks out.
Another powerful ass scene.
So God, damn. And I completely brushed over it because there's so much other shit to talk about. That's a really important scene. So good. She gets drunk and she just starts berating Waymond in front of everyone. Man. And you can see him start to cry, and he's like this hurts. And so the police show up with Deirdre to the laundromat, and they're coming to arrest her and like seize all their assets. And Evelyn freaks out and grabs a baseball bat and just breaks her window and starts hitting machines. And she gets, taken down by the police officers. While she's there, she's still in like the split consciousness. And Waymond is there talking to Deirdre again, just like he was at the IRS office. And she's like, there he goes again, like making things worse.
Yep.
He never shuts up. He never, like, he just always has to make things worse. And, you know, it goes to Evelyn sitting outside, and she's just like, she feels like she's lost everything. Like she's going to lose her business. Her husband's divorcing her. Her daughter hates her. Super low point. And Deirdre comes out and sits next to her. And she's like, I talked to your husband, and, you know, it makes sense. Like, this is a tough time in anybody's life. Like, you just got served divorce papers. Like, there's a lot going on that, you know, I just didn't know about. She's like, we can give you a week. You know, we can give you the time that you need. And if you've ever been in a position where it feels like everything's untenable and things aren't going to get better, and then someone intercedes on your behalf,
man,
and gives you just a little bit more time,
that
it's insane,
boy,
how good that feels.
Boy,
like, it feels bad, but like the relief that you feel from the pressure that crushes is indescribable. And again, this movie describes it perfectly. They don't even, and it's not, the thing that I'm having trouble conveying here is that none of this feels inorganic.
Nope.
This is a story
forced.
about a family. Nothing feels like it's forced in for whatever reason. Everything makes sense. Everything is exactly where it should be when it needs to be.
Yep.
And for her part, Evelyn has this great moment with Deirdre where Deirdre's like, you know, I get it, like, two unlovable, you know, cold-hearted bitches like us. And Evelyn's like, you're lovable. And it's like, it's such a simple line, but fuck. Like, it's so good because, like, all you've seen Deirdre as is like this workaholic.
Even Deirdre couldn't, like, she just like, like, she couldn't even find words for it.
So
damn.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Powerful. Just start to finish. And then the climax of the movie, the reason why she's going up the stairs is because Juju Tabaki has created this device, the Everything Bagel, that is like a black hole. And she is trying to unmake herself. The reason that she tried to get Evelyn to her level, where she could be everywhere all at once, was so that hopefully she could see something that she didn't and find a reason to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
That was her whole motivation. When she found out that Evelyn was just like her and there was nothing that mattered, her desire was to unmake herself. And Gong Gong and the rest of the Alphaverse people were trying to stop her from stopping Jujubaki, because Jujubaki to them is this world-ending scourge.
Evil, like Thanos of that world.
But to Evelyn, that's her daughter.
Yep.
And she puts everything on the line to try and stop her from unmaking herself, which is just a really, really simple, it's couched in like a lot of, you know, sci-fi-esque kind of shit, but it's a really simple metaphor for suicide and depression.
Yeah.
It's just like this person, the thing that she says that I was like, I get what they're trying to say here, where she just goes, I'm tired. And I was like, fuck. Like, if you ever hear someone in your life say that, like in that tone of voice, like, get them help soon, because yeah, it was a rough sequence to sit through. But yeah, she's trying to stop her daughter from obliviating herself.
Yep.
And ultimately succeeds. And it's a lot. It takes a lot.
Oh, it takes a lot.
You know, she has to fight through all these people and do all these things, and gets hurt a lot in the process. And it goes back to the laundromat after Deirdre has interceded, and, you know, Evelyn comes back in and she's like, hey, like, you know, and she goes to her father, who is like this, basically her antagonist. Like, it's not Juju Tabaki, it's not Deirdre. Her father's her antagonist because he has these insane expectations for his daughter, and this shame that he feels at, one, her being born a daughter and not a son.
Yep.
And then leaving home to be with this, you know, poor kid who wanted to move to America and like all this stuff. And she flat out tells him, like, hey, this is my daughter and her girlfriend.
Yep.
And,
finally says it.
The look on his face where he's just like, and she's just like, I don't give a shit. Like, this is my daughter and I'm very proud of her. And, you know, Joy breaks away. Joy / Juju Tabaki. It's kind of hard to tell the line at that point because it feels like she's both at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, she is both.
But, you know, she storms off into the parking lot. Evelyn comes after her, and Damn, I can't even think about that without getting a little
like
choked up.
Like that scene was that. There's so many scenes that are powerful, but this one, I think. See, here's the thing. I know we talked about representation and all that stuff.
We did talk about representation last time. Week. And what I don't think we got a chance to talk about was good examples of representation.
This is a great.
This is it.
This is it.
This has like immigrant representation, Chinese American representation, just Asian people in America representation, or Asian people worldwide. This feels like a pretty universal experience. There's LGBT representation.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna touch on. With that scene alone, like it wasn't shoehorned in. It wasn't made to check boxes.
That's exactly what the opposite of what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say every time, but a lot of times in movies, it's like they're just going down the list by the numbers. Okay, we got to have this gay character.
Yeah, Jurassic World is one that I can think of. The new Jurassic World, Dominion, is one I can think of because there's a pilot. I think her name is Kayla. She's a black chick. So, she can do everything that Owen can do, who is Chris Pratt. Okay. So she's like the female equivalent, which is bullshit. Which I feel like is bullshit because Owen in this universe is supposed to be.
He's supposed to be one of a kind.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the man.
Yeah.
The damn man. Okay. But anyway, so with Kayla, they shoehorn, like she says like 2 words about, Owen was talking about saving Bryce Dallas Howard, which I would say Bryce Dallas Howard too. It's my boo. Anyway, so she said, oh yeah, so you like redheads too, right? Throwaway punk ass lines for no reason. Not organic. You never got it before. They just had to throw it in there.
They're in a life or death situation, and like that's the fucking like
And then they have another shoehorned in scene, which like both of those could have been cut, and Kayla could have been the exact same person.
Right.
This movie, you don't even think about it.
Yeah, and that's
don't even fucking think about it.
They open with a like not chaste lesbian kiss like in the first 5 minutes. And never once was I like, this feels out of place. Like, dude, this feels gratuitous.
It was like watching a real life person go through shit.
And that's, again, there's so many things that I'm struggling to properly convey here. But
they just got to go see the movie.
You got to see the fucking movie. And if you're here and you have seen the fucking movie, have you ever seen more realistic depictions of just people being people? Hopes, dreams, fears, aspirations, all that shit, man. Wants, needs, hatreds. Like they have everything represented.
And it even shows how shit trickles downhill. So her dad, like, pretty much was a hard ass on her because she wasn't a boy and wanted all these expectations. Then Evelyn had the same type of expectations for her daughter. And both of them ended up being different from what the parents thought.
So I watched a lot of interviews today. I watched the South by Southwest Q&A right after they did the premiere. The second to last question that was asked was from a lady who is a Nigerian American immigrant. And she said, how did you guys write a script that so beautifully and bluntly depicted generational trauma in regards to immigrants? And I was like, she hit it right on the fucking head, because like it's not just a Chinese American thing. It's like a coming to America, having a whole different culture where they're from, coming and assimilating here, and then some of the I'm not trying to hate here, but some of the worst aspects of that culture they bring over get transferred down throughout the generation, and it just hurts and hurts and hurts and hurts.
It's so crazy.
It breeds this whole chain of just pain throughout a family. And they handled it with so much respect.
Man.
Because they basically introduce you to the one method that seems to work, which is the Band-Aid method. This is my daughter. She's a lesbian and I love her very much.
That's it.
It's like, boom. That's what can
drop the mic.
What can you say? You've covered everything. This is my daughter. She's a lesbian. I love her very much. There's no wiggle room there. These are all facts that I've just stated.
All facts.
Fucking phenomenal. And again, the scene where Joy, she hears that and she runs out into the parking lot.
Oh my God.
And she's like, good for you, Mom. good for you. You figured your shit out. All right. But I'm tired. I can't do this. And I was like, oh my God. Like that's because there is no, in real life, there's very rarely an immediate feel good moment of like, oh wow, all my trauma just got bared to the world. I feel so much better now. It's like, no, you need to take time to heal, and things hurt for a long, long, long time. And just the back and forth they have where I think Michelle Yeoh says something to the effect of, in all different possibilities, in all different variations of the universe, there is no place I would rather be than here with you. And it's like, goddamn, like I still haven't stopped crying since Ke Huy Quan gave his monologue, but now I'm crying harder. Because what kid wouldn't want to hear that from their parent? Genuinely. Like that's a universal thing you would want to hear from a parent. And yeah, it's very good. And the one little line that Ke Huy Quan has after they embrace on that, he just says, nothing matters. And it's like fucking tied the whole thing together. It's so good. Just that little right on the top. Because the whole theme of the movie, again, I've watched tons of interviews and gone through articles and things today. The director said the whole point of the movie is, if you get into like this sci-fi loop of like all these different universes exist, nothing really matters. You get into this nihilistic, fatalistic loop of like nothing matters, nothing matters. And they were like, well, isn't the point then that if nothing matters, you doing your best and just being kind to people means so much more? Because it doesn't matter, but you're doing it because it's good. And I was like, my whole life philosophy. They just said it. They said the whole thing. I was like, I felt like they made a movie for me, and I know they didn't, right? But
sometimes, dude, movies,
but they fucking did.
Movies and songs and just other things are like, they hit home so hard that it makes it feel like it was made specifically for you. I have some movies like that feel like they were just made just for me, especially in the things that you're going through, and then you happen to see that movie, like, goddamn, like, were you watching my life? It's good shit. Such a good movie. It's such a
The movie doesn't end there, but it could.
It could.
They do part 3 all at once. They go to the IRS office. They've got all the documents together. Michelle Yeoh shares a very, very passionate kiss with Waymond in the lobby. Very powerful after everything they've been through. And they go to turn in the tax forms to Deirdre, and then Michelle Yeoh starts zoning out again like she was in the beginning, and you hear all the different voices and whispers, and then she's like, oh, sorry, like, I'm here. And then credits. And it was like, okay, like, so it's kind of open-ended, where it's like she still can be everywhere all at once, but she's choosing to be here.
I don't want another movie.
I never, and I do mean this sincerely.
Please.
I never want to see this property ever revisited.
No, this needs to stay the way it is. It's perfect the way it is.
Encase the motherfucker in lead and throw it into the ocean. It does not need anything else added. We don't need a part 2.
Nope.
We don't need everything everywhere all at once twice.
Nope.
I don't want any of that shit. This is the best it could be. They worked really hard on it. They hit every fucking note that they attempted to hit. It resonated so powerfully with so many different people. I never, ever, 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 ever want to see this movie ever made again.
No.
What I want to see is all the people who made this movie go on and continue making
bad shit
projects.
Yes.
Things that test your emotional capacity, your mental capacity, things that are designed to make you feel and think and want and love. Because that's the kind of media that I want to see more of in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's not what I'm getting right now. This is the first movie that I've seen in a long time that has made me be like, it's a good thing this movie got made.
Yeah.
I'm happy this movie got made.
Yeah. And you know, A24 as a studio, because this was put out by A24. A24, I've seen quite a few A24 movies, and
they put out some wild shit.
And this fits in there.
It does, because it's a wild movie, but
And most of their movies have themes to them. Like they have meaning. The only one that I can't figure out the meaning of was X. That's about the folks that do porn and they go to I don't know what the exact meaning of that movie is. Maybe they just wanted to make a creepy ass horror movie with porn in it. I mean, it's it's not like hardcore porn, guys.
That feels like a very like 70s kind of thing.
Oh, it is 70s. It takes place in the 70s.
Oh, fuck yeah, okay.
Because that's when the porn boom was happening. So, but yeah, A24, like that Marcel with shoes on, Deshelle with shoes on.
Okay, so that movie looks cheesy as shit to me. My wife was violently upset seeing the trailer for that movie. She literally leaned over, she goes, "That's not fucking real. That cannot be fucking real." And I was like, honey, this is A24. Like, there are no rules.
There are no rules. Hereditary, no rules. X, no rules. Like, the shit that goes on in that movie.
The new one that's like the slumber party murder mystery thing.
Bodies.
Yes.
With Pete Davidson.
I look like I fuck. I was like, that's pretty good.
What is it? Zola and the something or other with the white girl stripper and the black girl stripper.
Yep.
They A24. You know what? I respect them.
Because they're doing something that nobody else is doing.
Yes, and they get projects and they like, you know what? Greenlight that shit. We'll throw a couple million there. You make your thing. These A24 has moved some really good independent filmmakers into mainstream.
Yes.
It is as mainstream as A24 is. And I don't think you said it, but this particular movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, was their highest grossing film.
This is the highest grossing film that A24 has ever produced.
Yes. And that says a lot because when you compare it to other movies, like people are bitching about Lightyear not making $80 gazillion in the first weekend. They are so happy that they were able to get what they got.
So this movie had a budget of roughly $25 million.
$25 million.
So far it has grossed, I believe, $98 million.
Which is a phenomenal success for that budget.
For that budget.
And that studio.
To 4 times multiply what you put in. The people who made this movie are ecstatic. If you did that with a Marvel movie, you have to understand that $98 million is
not even part of the budget.
I was going to say, it's less than a third of what the budget.
That's what Robert Downey Jr. probably got in Endgame. Right there.
$98 million is really low for what he got in Endgame. I guarantee you he got more than $98 million.
God damn.
Yeah, like it's just insane to think about, like, contextualizing this film. It's really not fair to put the earnings of this movie next to really anything else outside of the indie market, because you're going to see numbers like, okay, like the budget for this movie was $200 million and it made $750 million. It's a flop. This movie is a fucking...
That's what Lightyear is doing right now.
Yep. This movie quadrupled its investment and it's still going, and it's probably not going to like boom much higher than that, but it's getting a limited theatrical re-release. It's out on DVD now, but
it's going to make money on physical media sales and streaming sales too. Yes. So the word of mouth is strong with this movie.
Yes.
I have said this to multiple people and gotten people to go see it. So just me alone, I've gotten at least 6 or 7 people to go see this movie. So they are going to tell other people, and then it's just going to grow when it comes, especially when it comes out. And not everybody goes to the movies ridiculously like I do. Like, I go see all types of shit. So not everybody's going to do that. So when they're in the comfort of their own home and say, you know, it's on Paramount Plus, or we could pay $5 to see it. Yep. They click it and it's going to spread. And I hope it does. And I hope it hits hard at Oscar season too.
Dog, I said this before, semi-jokingly, I mean it. Everyone involved with this project deserves more than one Oscar. For every single piece of this was meticulously crafted to make a phenomenal movie. This is not something where it's like, oh, like, I mean, the performances were, but the CGI was really good, but the script is kind of, there's no weakness here.
Nope.
And again, part of that is the fact that the Daniels, the way that they direct, is they're interested in showcasing and spotlighting people who have unique talents and letting them bring their strengths to the forefront. They even said it in the South by Southwest post, thing. They were like, this took 6 years to make. Like, it took us 3 years to write the script. We shot the movie, the pandemic hit, and we said we're not releasing it until it can get a theatrical release because we think it's really important people see this in the theater.
Yeah.
And it's like, they were very deliberate in how they did everything, but they were like, we started as a group of friends, and then we brought in another friend and another friend and another friend. And like, by this point, we all know each other's weaknesses. We know each other's strengths. We know play off of each other.
Oh, good.
It's like, that's such a good way to make media. I imagine it's a very stressful way because being creatively involved with people that you're close to can cause tension.
Yes.
This is, we're just doing what comes naturally.
Yeah.
But if we were like in charge of a production and we were both in charge of like spearheading that, I imagine things would get tense.
Oh, it would. It's
that's just the nature of things. But it feels like the Daniels have found a perfect recipe. And again, cannot overstate it. Hate the word perfect. Think it's inadequate. Perfect recipe for a team that can create magic.
Yeah. I can't, like, just thinking about this movie that has a $25 million budget. And I think we might have talked about this. I can't remember who I talked to about this, but we look at our next upcoming movie, and this is one, hey, he's going to go see this in the theaters, y'all. We're about to go see Thor Love and Thunder.
Specifically to shit on it.
Yeah, specifically to shit on it. And we're going to probably have a whole freaking video, a whole podcast on that episode on that movie. But you look at the Daniels and how they put that shit together and how they paid attention to every detail and even do callbacks in like the googly eyes.
Yep.
The callbacks are all over the damn place.
The central theming and imagery runs through the whole thing.
All through it.
The circle, like the donut imagery, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, dude.
Everywhere.
So you have that, and then we go to a movie that has, I think, a $185 million budget in Thor Love and Thunder.
Is it only 185?
185.
Wow.
Because they use a lot of the green screen. The green screen doesn't cost it. Like, that's how they did the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
They do shit like that. But so you have a $185 million budget with all these well-known superstars and a big Marvel property.
Big names, big talents.
You have a person in Christian Bale who says he comes off the set of another movie and he's like, well, I have to travel to the location and I have to quarantine because they want you to quarantine before, he said, so I don't really want to do a lot. Like, I don't want to do a lot of makeup. I don't want to sit in a makeup chair a lot. So they were like, well, we needed to make you look like Gore the God Butcher, but we'll just make it look like Quan Chi instead. It's cheap. We can get it. We can get the props, get a little black lip teeth looking stuff. So you have that has that big ass budget and like thousands of people working on the movie. And then you have a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once that has a modest $25 million budget. And that's big for an A24 flick.
So,
and you get all that detail.
Again, looking through the interviews today, I want to emphasize how seriously Michelle Yeoh took this. They gave her the script, and she says she does this for every movie, but this is the first movie she's been lead on in the US, so it was a big deal for her. She goes through every single line of the script, and she has different colored tabs that she puts on everything. Emotional scene, fight scene, emotion change scene. Like, she has all these different categories. She had so many sticky tabs on each page, it went through all three sides. Like, it has a flip on the top, it's tabs all down the side and on the bottom, and it was literally just stacked full of notes. And she went through and she literally did her fucking homework. She went through and looked at the scenes where she needed to do certain things. I feel so bad because his name is not natural to me yet. I want to call him Short Round.
You can call him Short Round for the sake of...
I want to put respect on his name. Ke Huy Quan, the gentleman who played Waymond, when he got the role, he hired an acting coach, a voice coach, and a movement coach. And he talked about the process for the movement coach. The movement coach said, you're playing 3 different characters. So what I want you to do is I want you to associate an animal with each of those different characters. God. So CEO Kwon, or movie star Kwon, that's an eagle. Sorry, no, that's not true. Alphaverse Kwon is an eagle. CEO Kwon is a fox. Normal Waymond is a squirrel. So he would literally watch hours of footage of these animals, and he would start literally like crawling and moving like an animal, and then he would transition it back into trying to walk like a person. Yo. Thinking about how much effort and time and money it took to prepare himself to do that, Jamie Lee Curtis talked about the first day she shot with him, because it was his first day on set, and he hasn't been in front of the camera in like 2 decades. They do the first scene, which is the first tax audit scene. That's the first scene they shot with Yeoh Kwon. And when they're done, he leaned over to her and whispered, and he was like, "Was that okay?" And she was like, "What do you mean okay? That was perfect. Like, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "I just haven't done this in like 20 years. I'm just really nervous." And she was like, "Who the fuck didn't think this dude was worth putting in front of a camera for 20 years?" And she was like, "This whole movie should be a big fuck you to anyone who hasn't been casting these people in lead roles, because this should showcase for the world to see like how incredible and how just dedicated they are to the craft." Like we talk about like method actors and people in the States who are, oh yeah, I get really immersed in my role. Usually that translates to them just being a fucking cockhole.
That's your boy, Jared Leto.
That's the person I was thinking of. Jared Leto. There's the guy from Succession. I can't think of his name. He was also in The Big Short. You know which guy I'm talking about? I can't think of his name. Apparently he does a lot of method acting, and apparently his method acting is just being like short with people, like just being kind of rude. And I was like, okay, well, that's not really method acting. That's just you. There's just a lot of examples of,
Daniel Day-Lewis is another method actor.
But I've never heard anyone be like, Daniel Day-Lewis was a nightmare to work with.
Well, it depends on what character he's playing. You got to remember that. If he's staying in character and he's supposed to be an asshole character, he's going to be an asshole to you.
But I've never seen interviews coming out about working with Daniel Day-Lewis was the worst job of my life. I haven't really seen big outcries like that versus the ones I've seen for other people.
Check some interviews. Sure. Yeah, just check some interviews for what's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? Yes.
I imagine he probably
That's the one that really got me, because he was supposed to be a prick and he really was a prick to everybody.
Yeah.
But, method acting. Christian Bale is a method actor.
Yep.
He didn't want to do method because it's a goddamn Marvel movie. And the only reason he took the role was because his kids wanted him to.
Well, good for him. Yeah. Give the role to someone who wants to do the fucking job.
Yeah, he didn't necessarily want to do it. His kids were like, "Dad, could you just be something cool for once?"
Yeah, it wasn't enough that you were fucking Batman.
Yeah. Which is my personal favorite
Batman. Boo! Be some fucking nameless Marvel guy and not look like him. Boo! Yeah. So stupid. So yeah, just listening to the interviews from Jamie Lee Curtis and the rest of the crew, just the praise that they lauded on.
Man.
To Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Sue, and Yeoh Kwon, and James Hong, just huge. To have Jamie Lee Curtis be like, these people are incredible.
She's the screen queen. She's the top of the heat, man.
And the thing that I really love too is that she gives, in these interviews, she gives everyone else so much more time to talk. And when it comes to her, she just spotlights someone else. She's not well, for me, she told the funny story about buying the chairs, which was a really good story. And then she was like, yeah, Yeoh Kwon is just super modest and fuck whoever didn't cast this guy.
Yeah,
and that's not
crazy.
That's not me paraphrasing. She legit was like, fuck whoever has not been casting this dude. He's amazing.
It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. I applaud A24 for sticking to their guns and doing things that nobody else would do. All the movies and stuff that don't get the green light from the major studios, A24 is like, come on, bring it on over. And add to our eclectic collection of films that we know aren't going to make a shit ton of money, but they're going to have an impact. Like Hereditary. Hereditary
is nuts.
Hereditary is really good, and it's not your conventional horror movie just because of the pacing. Like it's slower. It's a character study. It's a study of family again and seeing the dynamics. But then you get her mama was part of a weird ass witch cult type shit, and it just blows that third act. All A24 movies usually have a crazy ass third act, and that's no different from this movie that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
It had a bonkers third act that just was balls to the wall.
To be fair, it was pretty balls to the walls from jump, but they somehow managed to escalate it even further.
Yeah, because they start going to the different multiverses, and that's when it like you gotta really pay attention because you blink and they're in another part, and you're like, oh shit. And hot dog fingers, like, oh shit, the rocks. Oh shit, they're this.
I think I touched on it briefly, but like the pacing of this movie feels intentionally exhaustive.
Yeah.
It's trying to bring you to a fever pitch when it wants to. And
because you're watching her story. Like it's like you're living it with her.
Yes. So
you need to feel, they want you to feel how it would be to go through this exact thing.
Everything felt so urgent.
Dude, even the fucking, I felt that. God. I felt that when he was.
That was so rough.
The paper cuts, I felt that.
And there's just a lot of tension. Like I knew that Evelyn wasn't going to slit her daughter's throat with a box cutter, but I thought about it for a second. I was like, because the framing was really good, and like the look on her face, and it's like, oh my god, like is she about to fucking slit her daughter's throat? But you know, like there's so many good moments like that. So to close out, I just want to talk about just a couple of things I noticed as far as the cast and crew, and then a couple of shout outs and trivia things. We already talked about Paul Rogers, who was the editor. Mm-hmm. We talked about Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, who are the directors and writers. The Russo brothers were the producers.
Yeah. Which
is nuts. And then I was like, man, like these big like ex-Marvel names, like because they don't really do anything with the Marvel Universe anymore, right?
Endgame, I think, was their last.
I think that was it
thing.
For them. Son Lux, who does their soundtrack and score. You can listen to that whole thing on Spotify, and it's beautiful. Like the music is so good in the context of the movie on its own. It's still really fucking good. It just sounds great. Larkin Siepel, the cinematographer, Spider-Man Far From Home, tons of shorts and music videos, like tons of music videos. Most famously, This Is America.
Oh, Childish Gambino.
Yep.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, like I get it. Like that makes sense. Sarah Finn did the casting. Every goddamn Marvel movie and show. She's the casting director for all the Marvel stuff. Everything since before Endgame. Like I went to go look at her credits, and it was like, you know how they have 90 fucking Disney shows coming out? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's on all of those for the casting, which I was like, okay.
All right.
Shirley Kurata, who was the costume designer, which deserves a huge shout out because Jojo Tabaki is doing like these insane costume swaps like mid scene.
So good.
And my wife did not super enjoy the movie, which is fine. But the one thing she said was the costumes were on point. She was like, these costumes are so good. Everything just looks really crisp, and there's good color palettes, and like they look unique.
Like Thor: Love and Thunder.
Shut up. So Shirley Kurata, she doesn't have a whole lot of shows under her belt. She was on a 10-year hiatus between 2006 and 2016, interrupted only by the Tim and Eric Christmas special in 2010. So I was expecting to see like a much more pedigree.
Yeah.
But then I was like, she did great. Like, and like, I hope that she does costuming for more shit, because the costumes were a highlight for me. The fucking edgelord guy cracked me up the second I saw him. Let me see. Randy Newman was Raccacoonie, obviously.
Man, Raccacoonie. He was in the back of the truck, man.
So, dude, I mean, again, I was fully weeping, but like I believe the Chad.
Yeah, they kidnapped him, man. They took Raccacoonie away.
Harry Shum Jr. Was the guy who played Chad. The emotion in his voice, talking about his stupid like fucking puppet raccoon.
Oh,
I was like, he was like, you took everything from me. I was like, I didn't take everything. Let me see. Brian Lee, Andy Lee, I talked about them doing the fight choreography. Let's see. Something I thought was really cool. So there's obviously a theme of mental illness and dealing with that in the movie. The Dan Kwan originally like had the idea for Evelyn having undiagnosed ADHD. He was like, that would be like the hook. So what he did is he researched undiagnosed ADHD and discovered one night, weeping to himself at 4 a.m., that he has ADHD. So now he is in therapy and is receiving medication for his ADHD. And he pulled that because he realized it would be very insensitive to portray the condition like that.
Yeah.
But he talked about that during the South by Southwest interview. And I was like, what an insane way to find out that you have that. But like,
bruh,
that feels really like,
bruh. But let me tell you this, though. Let me tell you this. You know, if this was done by any other studio, let's say if it was done by Disney, they would have put that in there. Like once they found out, they would have immediately inserted it in there because it represents them. Like people like to self-insert in a lot of these things. 100%. And they would have went ahead and did it and it would have been fucked up. It would have been super fucked up.
But he very tastefully was like, hey, that's not going to be the right way to do it.
It's beautiful.
Let's see. Something that helps keep all of the multiverses straight. Every multiverse in the movie, is filmed in a specific aspect ratio, color palette, and lens, so that they all have a very distinctive look and feel. And I gotta say, just not knowing that going in, I did not have trouble knowing which universe I was in. Yes. And I thought I would, because they were moving really fast back and forth.
They all look different.
But hearing them talk about it, they were like, no, we were shooting them each like a different movie. Like they were their own thing. And I was like, that's so smart, because then it just like, it stands out.
The one that I noticed the most was the hot dog finger.
Yes. Quote. Because it's like so pastel and like really soft and bright.
Like the image quality. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I am like Mr. AV. So I love AV equipment and high resolution and stuff. So as we were watching it, when they went to those particular scenes, I'm like, I don't know if it's the copy of the film that they got, but this looks so soft and almost muted colors.
Yep.
And then when they went back, I was like, oh shit, they doing it in different universes.
Yep.
And Wildebeest said the same thing. He was like, some of the scenes look different. I was like, yeah, like universes. He was like, yeah. So we discovered that knowing AV stuff.
Right.
Because you can tell, like the Matrix. I remember when I first saw the Matrix, and I was like, okay, so everything's like green. Like, why the hell is it like this is looking weird? Like, I don't know, AMC projectors all jacked up. But then when they went to the regular and it's like a blue tint, I was like, damn, Wachowskis, y'all look crazy. So,
and they cited the Wachowskis
so
as an inspiration for that kind of technique. And they said that they've been reached out to by a ton of different directors. Specifically, one they mentioned was Edgar Wright, who wrote them a really nice letter and was like, you guys killed it.
Edgar Wright,
and
that dude too.
They were like, we always get really anxious when that happens, because we're like, thank you. Here's all the things that we ripped off from your movies because we really like them. And I was like, what a really humble way to think about it. Like, these guys were super conscious because they had the option to be parodying people.
Yep.
And they didn't. Everything felt like a really heartfelt homage to something. Even something as absurd as fucking hot dog fingers felt genuine.
Raccacoonie, man.
Raccacoonie is funny as fuck. And also,
I need that movie.
So I watched a thing where it was like all scenes of Raccacoonie on YouTube. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds of that entire movie. But it stuck out so fucking hard.
Yes. Raccacoonie is the, like, if they did anything beyond this, having short stories of Raccacoonie, I would be all for it.
Has to be voiced by Randy Newman.
Yes.
She's seen too much. So good. Let me see. Oh, the one thing that I found today, I'll end on this, because Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, they both have incredibly storied careers, but it's mostly in like the indie spheres. A lot of music videos, a lot of short films. Wonderful, the stuff that they've put out. But the thing that I didn't realize that I had already seen and known Dan Kwan from was the Turn Down for What music video with DJ Snake, where his penis is going crazy and he's smashing through the floors of like an apartment building. That's fucking Dan Kwan. That's one of the writers and directors of this entire movie. And something about that like manic energy just kind of makes sense.
It makes sense.
Like, because I don't know. And I've talked about it a lot. Just in terms of like how good this movie is. A lot of movies, and not just movies, TV shows, a lot of different productions, they will try to say something, not to say it, but to say they have said it. Commonly referred to as virtue signaling. Basically just saying, hey, look at me, I'm a good person because I talked about the issue, or I cared about the thing, or I had a stance or an opinion. This movie manages to say more than anything else I've ever seen by nature of just being genuine. They had a story they wanted to tell, they told it. And anything you draw from that, it's up to you, and that's fine. But the thing that they were trying to tell you is having a family's hard. And, you know, taxes
suck ass.
Well, fuck the IRS is what they were saying.
Yeah.
But there's just so many different like messages and takeaways and things you could take from this. And it all boils down to they told a really good story, and they meant it when they said it. And you don't see that. Like, in my experience ever, I see this in video games sometimes where someone has a specific message. Never in movies. Movies always feel like there's always something else going on. There's something else they're trying to say without having the guts to say it.
Yeah.
This said everything it wanted to with its chest out. It was bold, and it was like, this is the thing.
Yep. And it actually, how can I put this without being me? They actually spit in the face of other creators and said, hey bro, we see what you're doing, but this is how it's done. You have a message, you don't have to just add it in there. You can't make it so that it can be easily deleted for other markets.
Yep.
You make it, if you want to say it, you say it. And that's what they did. That's all.
Would you be surprised to hear that they actually said that almost verbatim in an interview? That they were saying to the industry, you can do better, and this is how?
Oh, shit. No, I didn't even know. That was just my interpretation. I was trying not to put my isms in there.
Nope. In an interview they did, it's got like maybe like 15,000 views on YouTube. Really just small, like a webcam type interview. He was like, I wanted to show everyone that you can do it better, and this is how. And it's not to say that what they're doing isn't good, but what you really want to do is achievable.
Yep.
And I think they hit the fucking mark.
They did. Like, yeah, they did. It's great. I can't wait to watch it in 4K because the movie looks great.
It's beautiful.
So I want to see the full 4K HDR at home. So, because we didn't get to see it in the Dolby Theater because they didn't put it in there because it's an A24 movie. So it moves down the scale. And they had other big budget movies showing in the Dolby and the IMAX. So
well, you have to see Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You have to see the real multiverse movie that actually like did multiverses right and had good LGBTQIA representation and tackled issues like depression and not really feeling like you belong somewhere.
Yeah.
All those issues were much more gracefully covered in the Marvel masterpiece, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
You're right.
I had to get it in there. We've gone 6 episodes now. Every episode has had a Doctor Strange reference. That's it.
Yeah, you're right. That's it. But look, everybody out there, Raccacoonie is the best.
Raccooney's
the best.
Great.
Raccacoonie is amazing. And like I said, I thought it was, when they said it, I was like, oh, well, they probably will never show it.
Right.
And they did.
And they didn't just show it. They were like doing it in the most gratuitously hilarious way. They could have had a CGI raccoon up there.
They could have.
They could have had
so much better with a puppet.
It's just a real shitty puppet. Like, and the mouth is like, oh shit. I'm trying to remember what the fucking thing is. There's an Australian show that's like a parody of like old like spy like daytime shows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like set in the 60s and they're like fighting Nazis and stuff. But there's a German Shepherd that's a Nazi, and it's this really shitty puppet that like its mouth like flaps up and down like really like crazily.
Oh, it's like Triumph.
Yeah,
like you know how the hand puppet is Triumph.
Yeah, it's like one of those. That's what that reminded me of. Like the mouth movements on that. I was like, oh fuck yeah, like this is top quality.
It's so good. Now, if Raccacoonie, did you watch The Incredibles?
The first one?
Did you see the second one?
No.
Okay, so there's a scene where Jack fights a raccoon.
I think that was like an extended featurette. Like it wasn't just in 2. I think it was like in between 1 and 2.
Oh,
where he fights the raccoon. Or was that in 2?
It was in 2. He fights.
I've seen that scene.
This
I don't know
is when
where I would have seen
Jack gets his power starts.
Yeah, and he catches on fire, turns into metal,
and he fights that raccoon in the backyard. If that was Raccacoonie, he would have whooped Jack's ass, son.
That's true. He would have grabbed that little like tuft of hair on top of his head, just made him punch himself in the face.
Like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
With the best celebrity cameo of all time.
Bruce Campbell needed to be in that because it was a Sam Raimi movie.
He could have been anything else.
He could have did anything else. He should have just showed up. You remember how in the Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi ones, he was the bellhop at the front door at the theater. He could have just did that somehow. Been in another universe.
If they just passed by the theater instead of a fucking hot dog stand, that would have been a really easy thing to do. Oh, maybe the theater that shows all the memories that are your core memories.
Yeah, and he could have been the attendant
for that. Oh, that's so weird. Wow, we solved yet another problem with that dog shit movie. Anyways, do you have any final thoughts on Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes. Everybody should see this movie. As many people as possible. Now, I know it's not for everybody, but it is definitely worth giving it a shot. Even people that I know they don't like these, that wouldn't like that type. Yep. When they watched it, they had something to come out of it with. So they would like, yo, D, I saw this and I love this part and this was good. And man, the family, everybody can take something from this movie. So it's something that I would recommend everybody go watch. And yeah, that's all I got. I think we've said enough. Well, I've said enough.
My metric for whether or not a piece of art is good is how much or how hard it makes me cry. Video games, movies, TV shows, everything is based on, will it evoke the most raw of emotions from me, which is tears. I have never encountered a piece of media that has made me cry as hard for as long. So by my very shitty metric, it is the best thing I've ever seen. And by my own personal preference, it is the best thing I've ever seen. And I don't like watching movies. I don't like the experience of being in a theater. I don't have the attention span for most movies. This movie was masterful. From the opening shot of karaoke to the ending shot of a close-up of Evelyn's face saying that she's here. Yeah. Everything about this movie was impactful and important. And it feels like it's a movie you could watch multiple times and get something like see new details, because they clearly put a lot of love and heart into the minutia of the sets. So watch the movie. Support good projects like this. Support projects that have good representation and good representation of identity and race and sexuality, because you don't get genuine representations like this really ever these days. You get check marks. This is not a check mark. This is a genuine story, and I hope that if you got this far, you watched the fucking movie. I told you in the beginning, go watch the goddamn movie. Yeah,
watch the movie.
But if you waited until now, that's okay. I wouldn't do that. But stop here, go get the movie, watch it, come back, watch the whole episode again. Like, comment, subscribe, buy the merch that doesn't exist.
Yeah, we don't have merch yet. Oh, and just to let you guys know out there, guys and ladies, this was my number one movie of 2022 for the first half, like the first 6 months. So this came out in March, and I've seen 21. I looked at my ticket stubs. I've seen 21 theatrical movies since January up until the 30th of, because we saw Elvis on the 30th of June.
Is that any good?
I liked it a lot. It's in my top 5.
Okay.
So this was number one, and I've seen some good ones, like some ones like they were battling, but this was my number one movie of 2022 for the first half, and it could be all of 2022. It could be the one.
I would be shocked if you found a movie that you enjoyed more than this.
The only one that was fighting up against it was Top Gun Maverick.
Yep.
That was the only one that like put up a like serious fight for the way I felt while watching it. So yes, my number one movie so far.
Well, hell yeah. We can't give it any more of an endorsement than that. Only things left is for you to watch the movie.
Yep.
And let us know what you thought. Because it's the kind of movie that I feel like the more you talk about it, the more you get from it.
Yep.
I immediately messaged DV when I got out and I was like, dog, I can't stop crying. This movie's so good. So, yeah. I hope you get something out of it. I hope you got something out of this. Thanks for hanging out with us, as always. This is an absolute blast. And we will see you next time.
Peace out.
Peace.